Hey guys, welcome back to the New Nine Golf YouTube channel. I'm back again with our good buddy Tyler Foster, the teaching professional. If you just watched our gas video, maybe now you're wondering how to make better contact with the ball. Tyler's going to walk us through, if you're going to the driving range for your first time, how you should warm up, what clubs you can choose, and how you're going to get to become a better ball striker. Okay, Tyler, I'm a new golfer and I just got to the driving range. What club should I start with?
You know, this is one of the biggest points of contention. You see a lot of people, they go right to the range and they pull out the big dog, right? They pull out the driver and they just start pounding balls. But that has actually detrimental effects to your golf swing, to the way you see yourself as a golfer, a lot of different things. So what we want to do is have a natural progression as we get to the range. We need to do, multiple things when learning to golf or warming up for a golf round. We need to warm up our muscles. We need to warm up our minds and the way the ball is flying. And we need to make sure we are thinking about the right progression, moving through the golf bag in the right order to give us the best thought process and warm up our body and muscles the best. So you just got to the range. What are you going to do? What I like to recommend to my students is preferably to start with a wedge and end with a driver. And whatever you select in between there is somewhat a preferential piece of that. How I like to do it is start with either a lob wedge or a sand wedge and progress to sort of a short / mid iron, maybe an 8 iron, 7 iron, and then pick a long iron, 5 or 4 iron, and then move to either a hybrid, a 3-wood, 5-wood, and then finish with your driver.
Okay, well I have a sand wedge, so why don't we start with a sand wedge?
Perfect.
Maybe some beginners out there have a half set, a beginner set, maybe they have a pitching wedge, but you should have some type of wedge in your bag. So I'm gonna start with my sand wedge. If you only have a pitching wedge, you can start with the pitching wedge. Okay, so I've got my sand wedge and I'm ready to start practicing. So I'm gonna remember my gas. So I got my grip down point, I got both feet pointed at my shoulder. My aim is right at a target. My stance is comfortable, as is my posture. So my gas feels pretty good. So Tyler, how do I wanna start making good contact with my sand wedge?
So what I like to see happen is a slow progression of effort or power or speed, whatever you want to call it. So start with just, short, shallow swings, maybe get your hands up to about your waist level and just get focused on, you really want to train yourself and get focused on making good contact with the ball. It doesn't matter how far it goes, just make good contact. Perfect. That's exactly right. And as you start, your muscles get warm, hopefully you stretch before you started practicing, you can just slowly build that progression up. And in your mind, you can think whatever you want. You can think, I want to swing at 25%, then 50, then 75. But we generally never want to get to 100 or as some say, 110%. Because that's when some of the swing flaws and problems in mechanics come into play.
So would you say the very first swing that I'm gonna take at the driving range isn't a full swing?
You got it.
Okay, so I like it. So we're right at the driving range, we've got our gas set up, and now we're gonna take just, let's call it a half swing. A half comfortable swing, make good contact with the ball.
Good.
So maybe 3 or 4 of those, we're just working up the body and then I'm working up to a fuller swing?
That's right, that's right. So let's take one now. You've warmed up a bit already, so let's get a little more power, a little more speed into the next one.
So if before I was going to my hip, let's call it 3/4.
That's right. Perfect. Hit 5, 6, 10 more like that. Work on the contact. We really want to focus on the contact with the ball. And when you get to the point you feel you're ready, make a full swing.
Okay, so I've done a couple 3/4 swings and I think I'm ready for a full swing. Should I just go for it?
Just go for it. How's that feel?
Feels pretty good. I've definitely before tried to warm up with full swings and you'll top a couple or maybe a couple thin ones, but I think working just on those little half shots really made me focus on hitting the ball first, which in turn shows to a better full swing.
That's exactly right. And a big part of golf is the way you think and the way you envision your shots and the way you feel things. So those soft swings and focusing on contact builds confidence. builds confidence in your ability and the way you can hit the ball. That's a great thing to have built in your mind.
Okay, Tyler, I was thinking about ball position. I'm still practicing with my sand wedge. Do I want to put the ball in the same spot as where I'd want to hit my driver?
Definitely not. The lengths of the clubs are different. Everyone has different heights and shapes and sizes. What I generally like to see is 3 different ball positions. And then you see I have the 3 balls laid out there. So the first one in the front would be your driver. The next one would be sort of your mid irons, short irons. And then the back one is with your wedges.
So looking at the balls, the wedge is almost, let's call it the middle of my stance.
Yep, you got it.
And as I move up from my sand wedge and then a gap and then a pitch, 9, 8, let's say I get to about here to my 8. So that's kind of halfway in between middle and my front foot. And as I get all the way to the driver, that's almost on the inside of my left heel.
That's right. You can see this line here. That's right on the inside of your left heel. That's your driver. We want the next position there. And your wedges are going to be back towards the middle of your stance. And, you know, we can play with that as you start to get more advanced. You start to try different shot shapes, different trajectories of your ball flight. But for beginners and for people just starting out, 3 different positions, very close to one another. It saves the variation, it saves the difference between the bottom point of your swing and the contact with the ground. It adds some consistency there.
Okay, so I've moved on from my sand wedge. I'm now into my mid iron. Well, it's an 8 iron. So we were just talking about ball position, that it's no longer in the center of my stance. It's moved up a little bit. It's not quite the inside of my foot that we're waiting for that for our driver, but it's somewhere in between the front of our foot and the middle of our stance. Now, earlier, Tyler, we were warming up just doing little half swings with my sand wedge. Do you recommend doing the same thing with my 8 iron?
Definitely. You know, as we talked about before, that just works on your contact and builds your confidence.
We'll try a couple half swings here.
Sure. Good.
So I'm not really thinking about my follow through. I'm really just thinking about the ball contact. Is that a good swing thought to have?
That's okay for now. We're still working on the beginning stages. We want to make sure we have the fundamentals on point, our grip, our aim, our stance, our posture. You know, those other swing thoughts, the follow through, the swing plane, all that stuff, that can come a bit later.
Okay.
We want to focus on the fundamentals and making good, solid contact with the ball.
So Tyler, I notice as I'm taking a bunch of shots and moving into my full swings, most of my shots go kind of from left to right, that they don't all consistently go straight. Should I have expectations as a new golfer that everything is going to go straight?
Definitely not. Also a challenging sport. We're swinging at high speeds. The way to hit it straight is have it on the right swing path and have a square club face. However, when we're starting out, that can vary. So some people hit it from left to right. As a right-handed golfer, that's a fade. And from right to left, as a right-handed golfer, that's a draw. So, you know, what we want to do is learn what shot we naturally produce with the swing that we're working on. And that can do 2 things. It can help us build confidence and know sort of where the ball is going, depending on the shot shape we want or we have. And it can also help us manage the golf course. If you know your shot is going from left to right always, you can aim up a little bit down the left-hand side and let the ball come in. Vice versa, if you hit the draw, you can aim up right and let it move left.
All right, so far Tyler's walked us through our driving range strategy that we're going to start with our lowest club in the bag and work our way up to the driver. Now we've gotten to the driver, you're going to have to check into our next video to see the do's and don'ts of hitting a driver. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, turn on post notifications. That way you can see the new lessons that Tyler and I are going to be pumping out to make sure that you become a better golfer.